Ethan, let's go over your ACT. I went through your answers and scored it, and you would have gotten a 23 on the writing portion of this ACT, which is very good. You're in ninth or 10th grade, and that's an excellent score. The 19 is equivalent to a high school exit exam, so you have already exceeded the high school exit exam for high school senior. Now you're just going to probably want to work on getting that score up to get reduction in tuition, scholarship money. And I think 21 is at UA Fort Smith where you start getting a reduction. So anyways, I'm going to go through and I'm just going to do the ones you missed. Not that the other ones aren't important, but the ACT kind of asks the same questions over and over. And so once you start being aware of the type of questions, it becomes a little bit easier to get through it, and you can get through it a little faster too. Number 4 was the first one. I ride this trail nearly every day. M dash, not on a bike, comma, but on Luigi. And so when I looked at this one was hard for me too, but I know it's not G because of the semicolon. And that semicolon, remember, is the same as a period. And not on a bike, but on Luigi's not a sentence, so it couldn't be G. It also couldn't be J because they put the semicolons in. They're always wanting to see if you know how to use a semicolon on the ACT, so keep that in mind. And so, but on Luigi's, not a sentence either, so it can't be G or J. And then we have no comma. Now an M dash is the same thing as a comma, but it's usually used if you have two sets of commas in a sentence. And here we have not on a bike, but on Luigi. And so we do have a different set of commas that's doing something, so we use the M dash so they won't get confused. And not on a bike, but on Luigi, I was actually okay with this one. But it is F. And it's F because of that second set of commas. And so they use the M dash because they didn't want it to read, I ride this trail nearly every day. But on Luigi, if they would have put commas around not on a bike, it would have looked like you could take that out. And if we read it, I ride this trail nearly every day, but on Luigi, that wouldn't make sense. So it is F. Okay, you did not miss another one till we got to 17. And 17, the city was celebrating an incredible engineering feat, the completion of the first section of New York City. And let me turn to where I took the test. And we have a semicolon, the completion of the first section of the New York City subway. It's not a sentence, so we cannot use, it cannot be no change. Feet, over the completion of the first section of New York City. Feet, it is C because it is a colon, and a colon lists something after it, and it's usually a little bit of a parallel or a list. The city was celebrating an incredible engineering feat. What was the engineering feat? The completion of the first section of the New York City subway. So on the ACT, they will always check to see if you know how to use that semicolon and how to use that colon. So go ahead and be sure and look up those rules. And a colon, when you use that colon, you're going to make a list. And so they're basically giving us a list, and this is a parallel really of the incredible engineering feat. And what was it? The completion of the first section of the New York City subway. And 18, the writer is concerned about the level of detail in the preceding sentences and considering deleting the phrase the first section up from it. If the writer were to make this deletion, the paragraph would primarily lose information that is considering deleting the phrase the first section. Reveals how expansive the New York City subway would, clarifies that only part of the subway system has been completed, makes clear that the construction of the second was already underway. No, it's definitely not H because that doesn't have anything to do with the second section. Provides evidence that New York City residents, I can't see, at this celebration, believe the entire city. No, it doesn't do that either. So a lot of times when you're working through these, you see what it's not. Reveals how expansive the New York City subway would become. No, it doesn't reveal that either. It's got to be G. It only clarifies that only the part of the subway system has been completed if they leave out the first section. Okay, 21. As early as 1865, there had been proposals for a New York subway, but that took decades to solve the many political, financial, and technical challenges. But they've got the wrong pronoun there, but it. And this is just a compound sentence. We have one sentence on side of a conjunction, and we need a pronoun. It's just that is not the right pronoun, but it. So it's restating, and the antecedent is proposals, but it took decades. Okay, the next one was 22. The engineer William Barclay Parsons accepted responsibility for overseeing this project. Engineer's his title, so it's going to be J, the engineer William Barclay Parsons. And I can see how you might have wanted to put F, no change, because that does look like an appositive. And because we could have said William Barclay Parsons accepted responsibility for overseeing this project. I can see that either way, but in this case, the engineer is his title. Yeah, some of those it's just, I can justify them either way. Anyway, 24. First, workers used picks and shovels to remove roads and dig a deep trench. No change. To dig into the ground deeply under where the rocks had previously been removed. To dig a trench far below, since it is necessary to shovel deep, or delete the underlined portion and end the sentence with a period. First, workers used picks and shovels to remove roads and dig a deep trench. And I can tell you for the ACT, they always like to use as few words as possible. So they want you to be very succinct in your writing, and this is the most succinct, a deep trench, so it would be no change. And it seems to me most of the time when they're giving you a choice, it's going to be the one that's very precise. 26. Brightly lit stations welcomed the public. Many of them were skeptical of traveling underground. And we have of who, of whom, no change. Many of whom were skeptical of traveling underground. And they always do a who one. And the way you can tell a difference is whom is the object of a preposition. So we have the preposition of whom. Of who is not correct because whom is the object of the preposition. Who is the noun. That it's used as a subject noun, whereas of whom is a noun and it's used as an object. Brightly lit stations welcomed the public, many of whom were skeptical of traveling underground. And because we're talking about public, many of them. Gosh, it's hard for me to tell you why. It's just sounds better to me, but they're looking to see if you know the whom or the who. Remember, whom is an object of a preposition. Now to 29. Upon reviewing the essay and finding that some information has been left out, the writer composes the following sentence incorporating the information. This technique, also known as open excavation, became the standard for subway tunneling for nearly 60 years. If the writer were to add this sentence, and I remember when I went through and did this, so we have A, B, C, or D. Okay, D doesn't have anything to do with the technique. Parson decided known as cut and cover. It would go right here because that is an explanation of the cut and cover. So it would definitely be C. Okay, we're about halfway finished here. Let's go to 31. This brought art out of the elite galleries by catering to the upper class and literally to the public. This brought art out of the elite galleries by catering to the upper class. No, it didn't bring it out of the elite galleries by catering. It is saying it brought art out of the elite galleries that catered to the upper class. So it would be B, that catered. Okay, let me find the next one. 31. Let's skip down to 35. One of his frescoes depicts a progression through time and can be read as timelines from left to right. One of his. And because this is right here, it says frescoes. I don't know how to say that word, but it has an ES on it, so I know it's plural. And we're going to have to say many because this is plural. Because this is a little prepositional phrase. One depict. Many depict. It's this verb, it doesn't have a subject-verb agreement. They do that a lot too, and usually when they're looking for that subject-verb agreement, they put a prepositional phrase or clause in between your subject and your verb to see if you'll notice. So one depict, many depict. So that is their subject-verb agreement there. And you know that only one of them, the way I like to remember it is if you have an S on your noun, you can't have an S on your verb. If you have an S on your verb, you have to have a singular noun. So only one of them gets to have the S on it. And see, this is depict. One depicts, so that would be an S. Many depict. And they didn't give us a choice to change the depict, so we have to change many. Many depict. Okay, let's go on. That was 35, 36. On the right side, after they have moved through history, the same workers stand tall, radiating strength and confidence. Okay, on the right side, after they have moved through history, is it's not a sentence. So we're going to have to make it in a sentence. On the right side, after they have moved through history, it's a fragment, so we're going to put a comma there and lowercase that. On the right side, after they've moved through history, comma, so it's going to be this one. So you could take out this middle part. On the right side, the same workers stand tall, radiating strength and confidence. So this little prepositional clause could be taken out and it still makes sense. On the right side, the same workers. But it's definitely not a period because this right here is a fragment. We've got two prepositional phrases basically. Okay, got 37 right. 38. I don't know how I made that smaller. I want to make it bigger. 38. Rivera received various prestigious commissions while he was in the United States. We've got various, prestigious, comma, various and prestigious, various and prestigious. So it's about the commas here, so you have to know what you're doing with your commas. And remember, a comma has to have a reason. You have to have a reason to put it in. Rivera received various prestigious commissions. There is no reason to put a comma there. Now this one, various prestigious, they've got various prestigious commissions, so prestigious could be taken out and it would still make sense. But we don't usually do that for adjectives. Various and prestigious, again, we do not put a comma when we have two adjectives beside each other. Very and prestigious, comma. So it's just various prestigious. Just think you have to have a reason for a comma, and none of those are a reason. Actually, they're all incorrect. They couldn't even be a likely choice. Let's skip down to 42. The writer is thinking of adding the following phrase to the end of the preceding sentence, changing the period after industries to a comma. And these right here where you have to go back and look through it, those are the ones to skip if you're feeling like you're running out of time, because this one will take a lot longer to solve and it's still only worth 1 point. And so if you feel pressed for time, just skip these or guess at them. Always guess, because you have a 25% chance of guessing it right, and if you just skip it, you have a 0% chance of getting it right. But let's see. Such as medicine, pharmaceuticals, and chemicals. I remember this one too. So he's thinking of adding it. Should he? Yes, because it offers relevant examples that help to specify a broad term. Yes, because it helps explain how the panels were physically constructed. So it's definitely not G, because that has nothing to do with construction. No, because it provides a sampling of industry rather than a full listing. No, it's not that. We don't want a full listing. No, because it digresses from the main point of the sentence. It's going to be F, because it doesn't digress from the main point of the sentence either. So it is going to be F, yes, because it offers relevant examples. And when you work through these, a lot of times that's the way I have to work them. I have to say what it is not. Okay, let's go to 47. More importantly, though, we enjoyed being together. More importantly, though, we enjoyed being together. More importantly, though. Wow. Yeah, I can see why you missed some of these. You have to kind of work through them. And more importantly, though, it is an introductory clause and it is only 3 words, so we don't have to put a comma. Most of the time we are, so we can find the subject, and our subject is we enjoyed being together. More important though, that's not it. More importantly, though, no comma. It's going to be C, because the though is something we could take out. More importantly, we enjoyed being together. But because it's only 3 words, I could have went with no change. And it looks like you went with no change too, but they wanted it to be C. That one, I could have went either way on that one. Through my parents, whom were still in touch with Joan's father, I learned that Joan was currently living in Fairbanks. I think that would be no change. Oh, and you didn't miss that one. It was 51. Which of the following sequences of sentences makes paragraph 3 most logical? And this is another one. If you're going to have to skip it, you need to skip this one if you're feeling like you're rushed for time. So we had 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. Last February I had to travel to Fairbanks, Alaska for work, though we rarely spoke to each other when I called Joan to suggest her meeting. I would say it would be 1, 3, and 2 because that shows the sequence the best because he had to know she was living in Fairbanks before he called her because when he was going there. So that's that sequence. Okay, 53. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? So these are always tricky because all of them are right except one. It was 20 below zero that afternoon and the sky shone with a pale gray light. The sky was glowing. That's okay. The sky glowed. That's okay. The sky shined. It's not shined. Um, and the sky shone. Shined, shone. And the sky shone. And the sky shined. Actually, it could be shined. It couldn't be shoned because it would have to have a helping verb to use the tense of shown. Had shoned. Had shown would be right. Shoned. I don't even think shoned is a word. 58. I remember everything about her. How she would get so absorbed in her work that she forgot to eat, how she disliked talking in the morning, how she was firm in her decision. And just look here. Here is a semicolon, here's a colon, and after it, it's giving us a list. Just kind of to point out how you use a colon. How she was firm about her decisions. It's just a better preposition. How she was firm in her decisions. How she was firm about, because it's just not the right preposition. In her decisions. I'm trying to think of how to explain that. How she was firm about her decisions. How she was firm about her decisions. Wait a second. It could be with her decisions. Oh, this is a not. Oh my goodness. No wonder I kept reading it going, this is not in my mind. This is not working out. It's a not. So she was firm in her decisions. She was firm about her decisions. She was firm with her decisions. She was firm regarding or along. Well, it's definitely not along. And see, I just almost didn't catch that either. They even always capitalize it, and I didn't catch it. So don't let that happen to you when you're taking the test. 60. Upon reviewing the essay and finding that some information has been left out, the writer composes the following sentence incorporating that information. Yet despite such strong ties, we move far apart as adults. This sentence would most logically be after sentence 2 in paragraph 1. After sentence 2. No. Well, yet despite our strong, so it's going to have to be something about adults. And at the end of paragraph 2, I think it might be at the end of paragraph, though our history of shared experience, we formed a rare understanding of each other. At the end of paragraph 4, yeah, that doesn't have anything to do about paragraph 4. After the first sentence in paragraph 6. No, it's definitely at the end of paragraph 2 because that's talking about their growing up years. 61. Many thousands of years ago, people around the world began attaching different stories to the stars in the night sky. Different stories, which they connected to. I think that's going to be no change. Stories which they connected to, stories to which they related to, stories because of, stories to, and this is another instant where it's the most precise one, and so go with the most precise one. 33. In some cases, a pattern of stars may represent a simple object that has meaning in day-to-day life. In other cases, the pattern or constellation may be a figure with a different kind of meaning. In other cases, the pattern or constellation, there's no need for this comma. In other cases, the pattern or constellation may be a figure. There's no need for this comma here. Well, I guess that's an introductory prepositional phrase. There's no need to separate or constellation. All right, let's look at their choices. There's definitely not a colon, pattern, or constellation. If we're going to have the commas, we're going to have it on both sides. Pattern or constellation, comma. We wouldn't want to put a comma after our nouns and separate our nouns from our verbs. So it's definitely not D or C. And it's going to have to be no change because we could take out or constellation. In other cases, the pattern may be a figure with a different kind of meaning. And on this one, it can't be or constellations here because we couldn't take out the pattern. In other cases, or constellations. So it has to be this one where we can put commas around constellations and take it out. It's extra information if we wanted to. All right, we're skipping down to 67. We've only got two more. In some agriculture parts of Japan, for instance, these three stars are commonly referred to as something and represent a three-pronged plow. Given that all the choices are true, which one provides a detail that has the most direct connection to the information that follows in the sentence? It's awesome that it's a three-pronged plow. So would that be distant, populated, or historic agriculture? Because an agriculture goes with plow, so it's going to be no change. And then the last one was 70. On the other side of the world, the same three stars has traditionally represented three zebras. The same three stars could have traditionally represented. That's not the meaning of the sentence. The same three stars has been traditionally represented. No. On the other side of the world, the same three stars has traditionally represented. Have. It's past tense. And you got the rest of it right. 23 would have been your score on this. We're going to do it again, and hopefully you'll start picking up on some of the ways they're testing you. And remember, they are wanting to make sure you know how to use a semicolon and you know how to use a colon. So you can go ahead and look those up. You can just really Google it and make sure you know how to use a colon, how to use a semicolon. Those are always on there. They also want to make sure that you can pick the most precise way to state something. And so when you have a choice, choose the one that's with precision. And I'm going to go ahead and start the video because I know this has been a long one. I'm going to send you another test. We'll try it again. And let's see if we can get that score up a little bit. 23, though, is really great especially for ninth or 10th grade. But let's just use this opportunity to practice a little more and become more familiar with this English portion of the test. That's the end of the video.